started out playing when I was about 12 years old. And I used to take snare drum lessons at Girls High on Saturdays. So that meant that we would go, me and a couple of guys would go to Girls High, and we would see a drumming instructor who taught us sticking technique for like snare drum. And just a minute. And so that was my first introduction into the drum, although it wasn't the conga drum. I was introduced to the conga drum via high school, and I was in the high school band, and a friend of mine, one of the drummers in the band, had congas at his house. And so we would go to his house after school and we would play the drums, and we didn't really have any idea of technique or how to play the drum, but we knew that we were very much interested in what it was about. So that began my really interest, my first interest into the drum, the hand drum. And so I started studying the drum, just like you young folks are studying in school. I started studying the drum and studying with different masters, because we're very fortunate here in Philadelphia that we have a large community of hand drummers and a rich history in the hand drum. And most people don't realize that the drum was banned in this country for a long time. It was banned in a lot of countries where enslaved Africans were taken because the slave master felt that there was a message that was being transmitted via the drum. And that message told the slaves when to revolt, and this happened many times, and one of the most famous times is the Nat Turner Rebellion. And that rebellion was spurred on by the drum, calling the people and letting them know it was time to revolt, to fight for your freedom. So the drum has a very strong relationship to this country in that it was banned, but many years later, I was born and other hand drummers were born to play the drum that was essentially banned in this country. So many years of studying the drum and percussion instruments and the history about the drum led me to be able to go and take my talents out on the road and play with very famous musicians. And the very first one that I played with was from Philadelphia. His name was Grover Washington Jr. He passed on. He's a very famous saxophonist. And that was my first big job, playing on the road and traveling all around the world. And so other people that I've performed with are Anita Baker, Erykah Badu, Bob James. Probably most of these people you never heard of, maybe Erykah, that's about all, I guess. And then, about 18 years ago, I was fortunate enough to become the musical director for a cooking show on the Food Network, and that show was called Emerald Live. No longer comes on, but it was a very well-known show in the beginning of the Food Network experience. And after the Food Network, I continued doing educational things around Philly, and I found my way to Jubilee, by way of Jubilee coming to World Cafe for a performance called Bridge Connections. And so I met Miss Karen, Mr. Mike, and a few other people that aren't here. And then I ended up here at Jubilee, and I've been here ever since. So that's my story. All the way up to the day, here I am at Jubilee. So we have any questions? Oh, we have a lot of questions. We'll start with you.
Why do you want to be famous?
Oh, I didn't want to be famous.
Why do you go to school with your drum thing called Girl High?
Well, Girls High was a high school. At Broad and Allenby was a school just for girls. I don't know if they still have it.
There.
It's still there. So That's how I ended up at that school. They had lessons at that school on Saturdays. All the way in the back. All the way in the back. With your hand, yeah, you.
Who inspired you to become a drummer?
Who inspired me? My mother. Because my mother always liked to watch the jazz drummers. My parents really loved jazz music, and they introduced me to jazz music. But my mother, even when she was carrying me in the womb, she always watched the hand drummer. She was really into the drums. So I guess that kind of made its way to me. Yes?
Do you like working with other people?
Yeah, I love working with other people because, you know, when you work with other people, you have to come together and everybody has to work together to make the music. So it's very important that we all are used to working together. Yes?
Was it hard making all those albums?
No. Sometimes it's hard, but you know, you have to really listen to the music and figure out what's going to go where and what parts work. Yes?
Do you think you are at the highest point of your career, or do you still want to keep going?
Oh, I want to keep going. I don't think I reached the highest yet, but I want to keep going. We'll see what happens. Lena.
Why did you start drumming?
Why? Well, you know, sometimes you find out early on that there's something that draws you to it. You know, sometimes you might be drawn to singing right away, or drawn to doing art. Well, I was drawn to playing the drum, because even when I was a little boy, I always would bang on things. I started out banging on the table at breakfast and dinner, and my mother used to say, you know, the table's for eating, not playing. I said, yeah, I know, Mom, but I need a drum to play, so till you get me a drum, I'm gonna have to play on the table. So that's how it started. Yes?
Are you still famous now?
Excuse me?
Are you still famous now?
Well, you know, famous is really in other people's minds, you know, because I didn't start out to be famous. And famous, I mean, well known, people know me. So, you know, they don't stop knowing me, you know. So in terms of people knowing me, people still know me. I still give respect.
I want to second that when people hear that Doc Gibbs teaches drumming at Jubilee School, they are so impressed, and they say how lucky you guys are to have Doc for a teacher.
Wow. Must be giving out money these days. Julius in the back.
What still inspires you to this day?
What inspires me? Well, what inspires me is looking out and seeing all of you young folks and me being able to come and teach you, because I know if I teach you something, you're going to remember something. And when you get older, you might say, yeah, you know, this Doc Gibbs, he taught us at school and taught us this rhythm, and it came from such and such. So, you know, being able to touch each and every one of you with some of my information inspires me.
It's a day. But how did you get the nickname Doc Gibbs?
Oh, now that's a story.
Yeah, if you did your homework, you would know.
Wait, Miss Cameron, that's not a soup, because Miss Collins said it was homework. I just thought it was a paper that you weren't forgetting.
No, it said homework on the top
Oh, that was part of their homework?
to read about you.
Oh.
You can still answer that question.
Yeah, I'll answer that in 1 second. Young man, you have a question?
Yes. When did you consider yourself a drummer?
When? Oh, well, I considered myself a drummer the first time my hand touched the drum. That's what I knew. I'm a drummer. And then it just blossomed from there. Okay, I'm going to answer that question that Ade asked. Ade wanted to know, where did I get the nickname Doc? Well, in 1976, was anybody born then? Who's around in 76?
My mom and
Oh, okay.
My dad.
Miss Karen, you was around then?
my grandparents are. My mom and my dad.
So, let me have everybody's attention, because I don't want to have to answer this question like 5 more times. I want to only say it one time. So in 1976, I was playing with Grover Washington Jr., a saxophonist from Philadelphia. And we were recording a live album. They call them CDs now, but albums are real big records that we played on a record player with a needle. Anyway, we were recording a live record at a club downtown called a Bijou. It's gone now, but it was at Broad and Lombard. And so the first night that we started recording, Grover was real sick with a bad cold, and he didn't feel well, and he could only play the beginning parts of the song, and then when it came to the solo sections, he let other musicians in the band play because he just wasn't feeling that well. So I'm into herbal remedies and eating correctly, and I know some of you are too. So I mixed up a concoction of different herbal teas for him to drink. And the next morning I told him, I said, these teas are gonna not be good. You can't really sweeten it. So honey's not gonna do it, but it's nasty, tasty, but it'll make you feel better. So the next day, when we went to this club to record for the second day, he said, man, you are the doctor, because I feel great, I feel 100% better. So on that record, because it was recorded live, it was in Philadelphia, Dr. J, the basketball player, and Dr. Gibbs. So Dr. J no longer plays basketball, he's still a very famous basketball player. A lot of people know him because he was one of the pioneers of basketball, and he played basketball here in Philadelphia. So he's no longer playing, but I still play. So now there's only one doctor in Philadelphia. Yes. How old am I? I'm old enough.
His birthday was on my birthday.
Yeah, I'm
66.
66. Yes.
Did you have struggle getting to where you are now?
Excuse me, I can't hear him because other people are talking. And he's asking a pretty good question, I think. What did you say?
Did you have a struggle getting to where you are now?
Did I have a struggle?
Yes, like a little.
Oh yeah, it's a struggle. It's a struggle all along the way, because one of the struggles is you're being tested to see if you can make it through whatever the obstacle is that's in your way. And a lot of people are very good musicians, but they get to a certain point and they decide that they don't want to go any further because they may not have what they think it takes to continue on. So you have to always keep struggling and persevering, because eventually you're going to get what you're after. And so there's a lot of tests along the way to try to sway you from your direction. There's a lot of obstacles along the way, but you have to know, I'm going to overcome those obstacles because I'm looking forward. I'm looking to becoming what I'm after. So if you want to be a musician or an artist or a biochemist or an astronaut, you got to keep working toward that. You can't let anybody deter you from what you're after. Everybody got that?
Yay.
Okay. Jalen.
What was your favorite moment in your life and why?
Very good. Okay, that's a good question. I like that. My favorite point was when I went to Senegal, West Africa. Anybody's parents from Senegal? Ah, okay. All right. So, the first time, I've only been to Africa one time, but going to Senegal and the way that I got there was pretty incredible, and it's a very big moment in my life. The way I got there is that I was recording a record for another Philadelphia musician by the name of Sonny Fortune. And we were recording in New York, and it was the first session that I was going to do. So, two things happened at the session. One, I overplayed because I was so excited to be playing. I overplayed. That's one. And two, my father went with me because all before that, my father wanted me to be something else other than a musician, and he couldn't believe that I was really doing this thing as a musician and finally getting to record on somebody's record. So those are the two big things that were instrumental for that session. The other thing that happened was that the songs that I played on, I think I played on 2 or 3 songs, never made it to the record, to the actual recording. But Sonny Fortune said to me, he said, man, I know you were looking forward to hearing yourself on the record or whatever. He said, but I'm going to make it up to you at some point. I said, okay. And this was like around 1973. So fast forward about 8 years, I get a call from Sonny Fortune. He says, listen, man, I'm going to Senegal, and I'd like to take you with me. And it's not paying a lot of money, but you can bring a guest with you, and they're going to pay for them to fly and be with you. So I said, man, I'm ready, let's go. So that was really big for me to be able to fly to Senegal with my wife, and we both touch the ground of Africa, where a lot of our ancestors came from. So that was a very pivotal point in my life, to touch the ground of Africa. And then once I was there, I met a musician, a hand drummer. The second day I was there. And we stayed at a resort called Club Med. And Club Med was on the outskirts of Dakar. So this musician that I met, he said to me, I'm coming to get you and your wife tomorrow, because this is in Africa. This is France. He said, I want to show you home. So the next morning he came and got me and my wife, and he took us around Dakar. And everywhere we went, these little kids would come up and run up to me, and they would be saying words to me in Wolof, which is one of the languages they speak in Senegal. So I said to my buddy, I said, man, what are they saying? And he said, they're saying, welcome home. Where have you been? We haven't seen you in so long. It was like my cousins or my uncles that was hollering at me. And it just blew my mind, because it was like, man, this is contrary to what I've always heard, because, we were, when I was coming up, we were always heard that they don't want you back in Africa. Why you want, this whole thing of why you want to go back there. But when I got there, it was the exact opposite of what I had been hearing, and that was like, that really, really brought it all home to me, just what's going on around the world and how important it is to reconnect, for African Americans to reconnect with Africa, to understand where we came from, to understand that there were kings and queens before slavery, that there's a story, that we have a story, a very rich story. It goes way, way back before slavery. In the history books that they have here in America, they only talk about African Americans after slavery. So you have to do a lot of investigating to find out what was going on with Africans before slavery. Okay. Next question. All the way in the back.
Me?
Lele.
Yay. Why did you become the musical producer of TV FM?
Well, actually, it wasn't my choice. I just went for to play on a cooking show because I was called to do that just like I'm called to play with other people to go on the road or do gigs. That was just a gig to me. So I went with a piano player and we did 3 shows, and they liked the chemistry between myself and the chef, and they invited us back. So each time they invited me back, the chef got to know me more and more, and eventually they asked me to become the musical director for that show. So that was 10 years that I was the musical director. Yes?
Do you like working with this school?
Do I like working with this school? No, I love working with this school. I don't just like it, I love it. Yes?
I got 3 questions.
Oh, you got 3. Okay, what's the first one?
First, will you retire?
Did I retire? No.
Second, will you marry?
The second, am I married?
Yeah.
No, I'm not married. Well, I used to have a wife. Do I have any grandchildren? That's the third question? Yes. I have a granddaughter. Who? You think you might know her? Oh. It's my son's daughter. I have a son named Ade. My son used to live. My son lived next door to Ade. That Ade. And you know, it's funny when I started with him, I said, wow, that's my son's name. And I didn't know that he lived next door to my son, you know. Isn't that crazy? So, my son Ade doesn't live there any longer. He's got his own place. And he has a daughter. Her name is Casey. So I have 3 children, 1 granddaughter. Yes. We'll come back to you. Who else has a question? Yes.
Did you have any enemies while you were young?
Did I have any enemies? Oh man. No, I didn't have too many enemies. I'm sure there was some people out there that didn't like what I was doing, you know. But I didn't worry about them. Because, you know how they say, good always wins out over evil. So you gotta always do good. Yes. Yes.
Why do you want to be a drummer in the audience?
Why did I want to be a drummer?
In the office.
In the office?
No, the artist.
And an artist.
And an artist. Well, you know, that's what God gave me, so I had to work with that, you know. See, God gave each one of you guys a talent. Each one of you are talented. You know, they say, oh, like Stevie Wonder. Anybody know about Stevie Wonder?
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. I found out what my talent was when I was young. When I was like your age, I didn't know that was really my talent. But once I started to pursue it, then I realized it's something I really loved. So you have to find out what your talent is, and then you have to love your talent. Young man with glasses.
Did you do anything before you played the drums?
Yeah, I went to college.
Like jobs.
Huh?
Music.
Jobs.
You mean like a job?
Yeah.
Like a J-O-B. Yeah, man. I did a few jobs. I used to be a cashier at a supermarket. I used to work for the highway department. And I drove a cab. Yeah, I drove a cab for a little while. Yes.
When you were young, did you used to like try all these times to find out which one was yours?
When I was young, I'm still young. Well, you know what happened was, when I was very young, like your age, you know, sometimes your parents might put you in a dance class, or your parents might make you play the piano. You know, you have to take piano lessons. People don't do that so much anymore, but when I was coming up, just about every girl had to take piano lessons. Their parents made them. My sister, my parents made them take piano lessons. But you know, when you take lessons, or your parents put you in something, maybe dance class, or they put you in something, you might find a real interest in that. And that might be the beginning of you pursuing your talent. Because even though everybody's not destined to be a piano player, there might be a piano player in here, somebody that might want to go further, somebody that we don't have to say, did you practice today? Somebody we don't have to keep pushing them to practice. Is that young man going to sleep? Hey, young man with the Flyers sweatshirt on. What's your name?
Cyrus.
Huh?
Cyrus.
Tyrus? Cyrus. Okay. You know you're going to be coming to see me. What grade are you in now?
Fourth grade. This is last year.
This last year.
I mean, stop talking for him. Let him talk.
Oh, well, you know, he might run into me somewhere else, if not here. So I want you to remember me, man, okay? What's my name? Thank you very much. Yes. Oh, you got two more. You got a lot of questions. You know you writing a book? Are you writing a book about me? Okay, everybody listen up, because we almost done. So everybody listen up. What, we got lunch next?
Yes.
Who's got lunch?
We don't have lunch.
Hold up. Hold up.
Sit down.
Everybody listen up. Who's got lunch next?
No, you don't.
Okay.
I wish.
Okay. Well, we're gonna finish up real quick, so you guys can get the lunch. But I need everybody to be quiet. I need everybody to sit still. Young man with the tie, where's your tie?
I took it.
Okay, you gotta be still, because this is a part of being in school. Everybody gotta be cool. You know what that means?
It means you're not hot.
No. Everybody got to be cool, because what that means is that you have a guest. I'm your guest in your school. And so each one of you has to be able to sit still, because you're all older, you're not little babies. And this is a part of being responsible. So everybody's got to sit still, you got to sit up, you got to listen, because we're not going to be here all day. You got about maybe 5 more minutes, because I got to go to a school and teach a little later. So I got to continue my day. So it's a pleasure to be able to come here and talk to you folks, because a lot of you see me coming in and out every Friday, and you don't know what I do other than go upstairs with the 5th and 6th graders. And those who will be in this school in another few years are going to be seeing me. And then you'll know my story when you get to my class. So I'm going to take 2 more questions, and then we're going to wrap it up. So who hasn't asked a question? This young man didn't ask the question before.
How long have you been teaching at Jubilee?
How long have I been teaching at Jubilee? About 5 or 6 years. How long you been here?
Me, I've been here for 7 years.
You been here 7 years. You been at Jubilee for 7 years?
Almost 7 years.
Well, how come you haven't seen me?
Because I'm in 4th grade.
Oh, wait a minute. You've been here for 7 years,
Almost 6.
but you're only in the 4th grade.
Yeah. I've been here for 6 years. 6 years. There's preschool.
So last year you was in the 3rd grade, and before that you was in the 2nd grade, and before that you was in the 1st grade, and before that you was in kindergarten. Well, that's 5 years.
And then preschool, and then out of preschool.
All here at Jubilee? Oh my goodness. We're gonna have to give you an award. Because nobody's been here longer. Who's been here longer than him? Julius, man, come on, man. I just saw you. You just got here.
Eight years.
I know Cora's been here a while.
I've been here.
Okay, so let me have everybody's attention.
Hands up. Do you hear? Hands up. Samara,
Yes.
hands up. Guys need to show Doc the respect that he deserves. And he deserves a lot more respect than what you're giving him. You know how to sit quietly.
All right, I'll take this young man's question.
What's your favorite thing in the world?
My favorite,
Like anything, like this.
anything, other than drumming, because that's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Other than drumming, I like to eat.
I think you like something else. I think you like something else to eat.
What's that? Huh?
You have to be alive to eat, so you like eat.
That's right.
Finish.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. That's right. You're right. You're so right. All right, so we'll take one more question, this young lady right here. Whoa. I was about 12 years old. All right, so,
You don't have to eat water.
huh?
You don't have to.
Yeah.
You have to drink water, because then you have to eat too.
All right, we're not going to discuss that right now.
Okay. Young man,
Were you alive in 1960?
was I alive in 1960? Yeah. So what happened in 1960? How come you picked that date? That year? All right, so folks, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.